Ocean Pines is a vibrant residential community nestled on Maryland's eastern shore. With over 9 miles of waterfront property, amenities like an 18-hole championship golf course and a public yacht club, and a rich history dating back to 1968. Of course, if you live here, you probably know most of that. And if you don't, it's almost all apparent from your first visit. Each week on the Pines Cast, we work to bring out the ocean pines that might be less apparent. We celebrate the region, the amenities, and, most of all, the people who make and keep Ocean Pines a special place to live. Welcome to the Pines Cast, your source of news and insights about Ocean Pines and the official podcast of the Ocean Pines Association. In this episode, we're going to speak with Carolyn Dryzga. She is a local representative for the Twilight Wish Foundation. It's a nonprofit that helps out disadvantaged seniors, and we're going to talk all about it so you get the details. And although this is something I usually leave for the end of the show, I know people kind of start to wander up the aisles toward the end, so I want to tell you now, please check the show notes for links to all of the ways you can donate and help out or volunteer with this fantastic group. But again, I'm going to let her tell you all about it. So, with no further ado, here's Carolyn. So, I'm happy to have you here to talk about the Twilight Wish Foundation. But before we get into that, I would like to get you to Ocean Pines. So, can you tell me when did you move to Ocean Pines and why?
All right, I'm a transplant from Pennsylvania, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And I came here in year 2011.
And what brought you to Ocean Pines?
I had retired from my job in New York City and decided to be near the shore. I had a friend that had moved down here 2 years prior, so it was comfortable for me to come into the area having somebody that already knew her way around. So it worked out beautifully. I've looked at 17 different homes, finally settled on one, and it was love at first sight.
So you knew you were going to Ocean Pines, and then you had to find a house. It wasn't like you found a house and it happened to be in Ocean Pines.
That's correct.
That is super cool. And what did you retire from?
I retired from the Hay Group management consulting firm.
And so what did you do to pass the time while you were at work?
Oh, marketing. Marketing/administration. So it was a combination job. It started out in Philadelphia and then got transferred to the New York/Jersey city office. And 20 years with the company and then retired here in lovely Ocean Pines.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how did you find yourself fitting into Ocean Pines? How did you get involved with the community?
It was so easy. With about 6 months after I'd moved, my friend and I decided to participate and get a table at the flea market in the community center. And across from our table was another table by the Kiwanis Club. I had never heard of the Kiwanis Club.
Huh.
So I walked over and said, all right, what's Kiwanis? And then I was roped in the next week, attended their meeting, got tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, would you like to become vice president next year? That'll be right? I was so new, I didn't know enough to say no.
Right.
So that's how volunteering goes. And that began my first experience with volunteering in a community neighborhood because I'm an Army brat, moved around, never was in any place long enough to do community service. And then I married into the military to a Marine West Point graduate. And the rest was history. I just never had that opportunity. So being in Ocean Pines and being involved in the community is a first-time love for me. It's just been wonderful. So I spent 13 years in the Kiwanis organization and loved every minute of that. But after 13 years, I thought it was getting to be too much and I needed to find something else.
What were some of the things that you liked the most early on in the Kiwanis, and then as things go on, what did you like the most at the beginning and the middle and then toward the end?
Well, in the beginning, it was just a volunteer, supporting, wasn't really directing the club, not identifying needs. But as I stayed in the club, I did become vice president and then eventually president, and then eventually what they call lieutenant governor. So I had 11 clubs under my domain.
Wow.
Yeah, it gave me an opportunity to get to know the area because I really had only come from Pennsylvania directly to Ocean Pines. I had no idea about Maryland other than the fact that one of the assignments my father had was in the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. So that was my exposure to that was the extent of my exposure to Maryland. So this was a wonderful way. I got to meet the civic organizations that help the communities and youth of Worcester County. I traveled all over Delaware and Maryland as lieutenant governor, and it was just fabulous. It was just a way to see and to appreciate the community, especially in Ocean Pines, as probably the most generous people I've ever encountered in my life. So it was such an easy fit.
It always amuses me because I was also the same way. I didn't know that Maryland touched the ocean until I moved here. So when I thought of Maryland before I moved here, actually, when I thought of Maryland until I was driving through Delaware, I just thought of the other side of the bay. I had no idea that Maryland was like this. For me, it was, Baltimore and, Rockville and all of those places on the other side.
Yeah, and for me, Ocean City was New Jersey.
Right, me too. I'm from New Jersey, so that was an easy one for
Yeah,
me.
cool.
When you decided to kind of step back from the Kiwanis, how did you get involved with the Twilight Wish Foundation?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I think God leads us in all the ways he wants to. And I had my daughter and son-in-law down for a weekend, and I was sharing with them that I thought I needed a change, that it was time for me to move on to something else, and I didn't have anything in mind. My son-in-law stepped up and said, Mom, you really should talk to so-and-so, somebody back in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. She's involved in this organization called Twilight Wish. And I said, well, what's that? He said, well, Make-A-Wish Foundation. I said, yes, I have. I said, who hasn't heard of that? He said, well, this is a wish foundation just for seniors. And I said, oh, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. And it's so amazing how things work out, because 2 or 3 days before they visited, I was on the phone with one of my family members, and she was sharing with me a conversation that one of her daughter's friends had. And they were talking about seniors, the old people. And the friend said, oh, they're invisible. And I was taken aback by that, because
Yeah.
I are one, and I'm not invisible. So I thought, how does this happen? I immediately called the Twilight Wish Foundation, said, I'm interested in volunteering. How do I go about doing this? And the rest really is history. But parallel to that, Chip Bertino asked me to sit on the Commission for Aging. And that commission has under their purview the 50 plus seniors in all 4 counties. And that seemed like a perfect fit. If I was going to be somebody that's going to assist and make people aware of seniors in the community, and that the board that I was sitting on does nothing but work with seniors within the community, it just seemed like a magical match.
And can I ask, before we go too far, can you tell me a little bit of background about the Twilight Wish Foundation? Do you have an origin story for them that you can share?
I do. It was founded in 2003 by a lady named Cass Forkin. And she and another lady friend were out to dinner, actually luncheon, in a diner in Bucks County. And as they were getting ready to leave, they noticed these 2 very elderly women trying to put together some dimes and nickels and quarters to pay for their coffee and a Danish. And she was touched by it. So she walked over and took their ticket and then paid for their little lunch. And that started her thinking. And she and her friend decided, well, how many people just randomly, grant a wish to seniors? How many people pay it for?
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that began her journey to create the Twilight Wish Foundation. And it has grown exponentially. They have actually granted 7,100 and some wishes since their inception in 2003. I don't have the exact count of how many chapters there are, but they're all over the United States. It wouldn't surprise me if they go global at some point in time. But all of the chapters are looking for seniors who are pretty much forgotten or abandoned, and grant wishes. And what's unique about it is that they're not trying to cure cancer. They're not trying to feed the homeless or shelter the homeless. It's just granting one wish at a time. And I find that very rewarding and very personal.
It's small things, and it's like an easy mission accomplished. Every time you can do something, you know that you've done this little bit of good,
Yes.
and that the world is just a little bit better for it.
Yes. And when I move on to the next wish, the previous recipient, they're talking about that wish for many, many weeks and months, because it makes them so happy.
And can you give me some examples of wishes that you've done?
Yeah, I can. The very first wish that we granted was to a client who goes to the Worcester County Developmental Center. And she was 82 years old at the time. And she had a passion for Minnie Mouse. And she would attend any parties or celebrations that they had at the developmental center. She would bring something about Minnie Mouse. She'd either have the ears from Minnie Mouse or a little bow that Minnie Mouse would always have as part of her costumes. And so she wanted to meet Minnie Mouse. Well, I thought that would be an easy wish because I had met a woman who has done parties for children, and she dresses up in costumes and does impersonations. So I called Amber of, I think it's Amber Adventures, and asked her, I said, do you have a Minnie Mouse costume? And she said, no, I don't, but I'll get one. I'll get one and I'll do a party like they've never seen at the developmental center. And she did. And people had their pictures taken with Minnie Mouse. They danced with Minnie Mouse. There was a little luncheon for Minnie Mouse and everybody in the center. And it was so happy and so rewarding to see something like that. And I know they're talking about that today. So it was great. The second wish came about because I decided to do a ride along with a person from Meals on Wheels, yeah, and happened to be in Ocean City. So we met a man who was at the time 95 years old, so he's 96 and a half right now. And he was a Korean veteran, and he was bedridden. When I saw him and was introduced to him as we got into conversation, I said, hey, John, I said, what would you like to do that you haven't been able to do since you've been laying on this bed? He looked at me with a twinkle in his eyes, and he said, honey, I want to go to dinner. Now, he had not been able to get out because he's wheelchair bound, and they did not have wheelchair transportation for him. So because I'm on the board for the Commission of Aging, and they have wheelchair transportation, the two just kind of clicked.
Yeah.
I was able to arrange wheelchair transportation for him in a special wheelchair adapted van. And I said, well, where do you want to go for dinner? He said, the Harborside Watch. I thought, okay, I don't know a soul at the Harborside Watch. I went to see my accountant for tax purposes and mentioned what I was doing. He said, oh, I know them. I'll call so-and-so. And so he called the president of the Harrison Group. Before I knew it, they were comping dinner for John and his 12 or 11 other family members. And it just so happened it was the week that the White Marlin Open was coming in. So he wanted to see the boats coming in with their catch. So he had a front and center seat at the restaurant. But in addition to which, we later found out that John was one of the first participants of the White Marlin Open in 1957. So it's amazing how all this stuff comes together and what joy there is in doing what I'm doing. And it's not by plan.
Right. It's just you're waiting to be led to the people who you can help.
I am.
I have a bunch of questions already, though.
Okay.
So the first question is, this is going to sound accusatory, but I swear to God, it's not. How can people find out? Like, it's awesome that you did it, but it's also, how did he not know that there was transportation available, or was it a new program at the time, or is this something that people need to know more about? Just the transportation program in general, is that something we should be amplifying?
Well, it's something that you'd have to pay for to get special transportation.
Mm-hmm.
The means may not have been there, and they're not for many of our seniors. They don't have the means.
I see.
So, I mean, you can get wheelchair transportation, and there are agencies in Worcester County that can help you with that. But sometimes it may not be free, and sometimes it may also be restricted during the time of day. Well, this was in the evening. It was after hours, and it was at the volunteer of the transportation services was the person who said, he's a senior himself. He raised his hand. He said, I'll do it. And they did nothing. No cost.
Right. And so that it was like a double volunteering kind of thing. I see.
And that happens. It happens as you're going about talking to somebody that would like to have a wish come true, which usually is the last thing on their mind, because the seniors that I'm talking to are income disadvantaged seniors. The last thing that they talk about is something that is not necessary for their lifestyle or their living. Somebody that's living on Social Security is not going to think about going to a beauty parlor and getting their hair done or their nails done or buying an outfit for a luncheon or something. They don't think about those things. And typically a caregiver, even with the senior homes, they don't talk about things that are not necessary for their welfare or their survival even. So it's not something that's front and center on people's mind.
Hey there, listeners. Are you in the Ocean Pines area and looking for a pharmacy that goes above and beyond? Look no further than Tidal Health Home Scripts. Open 6 days a week, our knowledgeable pharmacists are ready to fill your prescriptions in just minutes. Plus, we offer free home delivery in the Ocean Pines area and have a super convenient drive-through window. Need over-the-counter items? We've got a large selection. And with our monthly sales, you'll find everything you need at great prices. Conveniently located at the North Gate of Ocean Pines, Tidal Health Home Scripts is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To fill a prescription or arrange for a free home delivery, give us a call at 410-543-4769. That's 410-543-4769. Remember, that's Tidal Health Home Scripts, your trusted pharmacy partner. Do you send out pictures and things like that? Is there a place where people can see these stories? Because it sounds like these are the kind of stories that people would do well to be able to read or to see photos and things like that.
Well, that's why I'm so happy to do the podcast. I have a Facebook page.
Mm.
And if you go on the twilightwish.org, you'll see all over the United States stories of wish recipients. And some of them are absolutely amazing. But my Facebook page is a little barren because I'm a senior and not really adept with that, although I'm pretty good with technology. I'm not real comfortable with Facebook. It seems that once I get on it, I can't get off of it for two and a half hours. And that's not where I want to spend my time.
Right.
But I will get better at it, I'm sure, over time.
That's okay. And I can put a link to the page in the show so that people can at least contact you.
Yes, you can. And I do have a printout with some basic information that I can leave here at the office.
Well, what can you tell me some of what are the need to know things for people who are listening to this? Like, how do they reach out to you, for example?
Well, they can get me at TWF Worcoa, WORCOA. So TWF WORCOA. Worcoa is the Worcester Commission on Aging. And I said I'm a board member for that.
Right.
TWF is just the initials for Twilight Wish Foundation. So it's TWF Worcoa at gmail.com.
And can you tell me about your relationship with like the mothership? How does that work with the main, how independent are you and how tied are you to the main Twilight Wish Foundation, I guess, center?
All right. They're not overbearing, but they're a very structured and well-run machine. We have things that you have to qualify the wish recipient. They first have to be 65 years or older. They have to be a United States citizen. They have to be able to demonstrate that their annual income meets the poverty guidelines. So this year would be they can't have more income than $31,000. Many of the people that I've met barely make more than $15,000. They have to have a history of being a good person or a good family member or a good provider or a member of their community. And that's primarily the main things that are needed. So when I submit an application, it has to go into the headquarters in Doylestown, and I have to be able to present proof that they meet these qualifications and tell their story. Then they approve the application. And then my primary role after I find a wish recipient is to be the facilitator. So I'll reach out to like my accountant, like the transportation head of the Commission on Aging, like to restaurants, whatever I can do to facilitate, to the lady that does the impersonations. So I'm a facilitator, and that's my main role. And I am looking for people to join me and become facilitators. So I was delighted to have this podcast so I could get the word out that I'm looking for people who want to do something nice for a senior.
That was my next guess. So there's not a group of you. The group of you is just you for now.
For me and Barb Pelletier, who actually received the Wilkinson Volunteer Award for 2024 from Ocean Pines. So yeah, she's wonderful, and she's my right hand, and it's together we go out into the community and look for people to grant wishes to. And that's hard. It's hard to find the recipient. It really is. They're not calling me.
And how did you get in touch with her?
Oh, Kiwanis. They were both former Kiwanians.
And did you say to her, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Would you like to do it as well? What was the story there?
I said like 4 sentences, and she said, I'm in. She had retired from the Kiwanis Club about a year earlier, so she was ready.
I guess that's part of it, right? Once you get into the habit of volunteering, it's just a matter of where can I put my energy, not whether I have the energy to volunteer or not.
That's correct. Yeah, it just makes you feel good.
And do you take recommendations for people? How you've just been finding people by chance so far, or have people called and said, "Hey, I know a guy"?
I wish they would call and say, "Hey, I know a guy or a gal." I think that would be great. That hasn't happened. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to work with the state agencies and saying, "Here I am. Let me go talk to so and so, or let me." Yeah, I did a ride along with one of their social workers, and that I've met a couple of potential wish recipients that way. I've had one person contact us on Facebook, and that's a really amazing story. Do I have time to tell you about that?
You absolutely do. Please tell me that story.
Am I talking too much? No.
You are not talking too much. I'm the one that's talking too much all the time.
This is a gentleman who lived in Ocean Pines Whitehorse Park. At the time when the residents or the people that lived in Whitehorse Park were supposed to be vacationers, not permanent residents. So I don't know the details of the story, but at some point in time, the owners of that park decided to go back to their original charter that area of Ocean Pines was just supposed to be for vacation rentals, not permanent residents. It was such a delightful place and economically feasible for so many people to live there that they became residents instead of part-time vacationers. So I don't know how or when this happened, but this person that I am granting a wish to was evicted along with everybody else that was living there on a permanent basis. And he met a friend that said to him, "I will build you a house if you will find the land." By this time, this man was a paraplegic. He was born with a lot of birth defects. He was able to pursue playing the saxophone and had a love for jazz, but over time, his vocal cords became non functioning. So he now is in a wheelchair. He eats with a feeding tube. He talks with a voice box that he has to press, and you can barely hear him. But this man is probably the most loving, kind person you'll ever meet, and disposition like you can't believe. And as a result of feeling so blessed, he felt he has to give back to the community that has helped him so much. So he formed a musical festival because of his love for jazz. And he contacted all the bands that he knew of that came to the Ocean City area and holds a festival every year called Stand Stock Music Festival. And he gives the proceeds from that festival to organizations that assist in the research for curing cancer for children and for helping homeless veterans. He contacted me because he needed a service dog. And so I contacted headquarters, Twilight, and said, I don't know anything about service dogs. Has anybody else in any of your chapters done this? They said they've had plenty of requests for service dogs. No one has done it. I went, oh. So I figured, well, that doesn't mean I won't be the first. So I figured, okay, I'm on a research. So I researched for a couple of months, no success. Researched a few more places in Delaware, no success. It's not that I couldn't find a puppy that could be a service dog. It's just that the costs were prohibitive.
Right, yeah.
Any from $10,000 to $50,000, depending on the breed. So it really turned out to be, something that I was not able to do. But little did I know, this man who was now living in Berlin had two aides that were with him because of the state's wonderful budget to fund that kind of caring.
Mm-hmm.
His night aide said he was bored, and she said, "Stan, why don't we go on and see if we can find somebody around here that maybe has some puppies that could be trained?" Sure enough, with one try, they found a family in Berlin who had given birth to I guess 4 puppies. They had 1 puppy left, and the breed was a sheepdoodle. I never heard of a sheepdoodle, but they're a wonderful breed of caring, protection like sheepdogs, and doodle, smart, and able to learn. So he found this dog, unbeknownst to me, the puppy was given to him. The family donated all kinds of supplies and veterinary shots, and all of those things were taken care of. So Stan invited me over to meet the sheepdoodle. So this was about 3 months after he had this puppy. I imagine I'm going to go in and see a little puppy. Puppy came up to my hip. Beautiful, beautiful dog. Shiny coat, friendly as could be. Was starting to learn some commands, and that was because of the graciousness of the Delmarva Canine Kennels. And I had met with them to see if they could help me in finding a sheep, a service dog. So Stan knew them because I had made that introduction, and he had shared his story with one of the representatives from the kennel. And out of the goodness of their heart, they started coming over to give him basic obedience training so the dog would behave in the house. But now, on the horizon, and for me to do, I have to provide the training cost for this dog. So I'll be fundraising to do that over the next 6 or 7 weeks. So that's a wish that I have on my agenda, but it's not filled yet.
Very cool. And we are kind of coming up to the end of it now. So before I let you go, I do want to say, is there something that I haven't asked and should have, something you thought you'd get the opportunity to say, but I didn't provide it?
Yes. If anyone would like to donate, something to my chapter, they would go on twilightwish.org and look for the Worcester County chapter, and you can donate online. If anyone would like to volunteer, please reach out to me at twfworcoa@gmail.com. And I am looking for people to participate in this wonderful adventure.
Very cool. And I will put links to all of those things in the show notes. And if I have any trouble, I will email you at the email address you just gave and ask you what I'm doing wrong.
All right.
But other than that, I don't have anything else. So thank you so much for your time. And when you succeed inevitably on this dog hunt, please let us know so we can update the listeners.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
The Pines Cast is an Ocean Pines Association production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo, our executive producer, the wonderful Sarah Ash. Please make sure you reach out to us with questions, concerns, suggestions, comments. You can do all of that by emailing me. My email address is bytonyrusso@gmail.com. That is bytonyrusso@gmail.com. Please subscribe wherever you're listening now. If you are on your computer and would like to get this on your phone, all you have to do is pick up your phone and go to your podcast app. If you have an iPhone, that is Apple Podcasts. On an Android device, you can subscribe to us on Spotify or on Amazon Music. Pretty much any place you get podcasts, you get us. YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is fantastic. Anyway, thanks so much to those of you who did write in, and we would love to hear more from you. Remember, if you would like your comments read on the air, please let me know. Otherwise, I will keep them to myself and take them under advisement. That's all for this week. We will catch you next time on the Pines Cast.